Hey, so welcome all of our NHAT Connect fans. I'm Jennifer Edge Savage, and we're really delighted to have a special expert webinar guest, Hillary Goldthwait-Fowles, to talk about assistive technology and its role in supporting anxiety. So I'm really looking forward to this tonight. I think we could all use this today, Hillary. So I'm going to turn over control to you right now. I'm going to make you the host. You have all the power.
Uh-oh, that's kind of deadly. That's dangerous.
A lovely power. I'm going to change you to the host so that you can share. And thanks everyone for joining us. Now this will be, actually it's only going to be a half-hour webinar today. You just got a half hour more of your time. And this will be recorded, okay? All right, thanks so much, Hillary. I'll mute myself and get out of your way for now.
Jen. And thanks everybody for coming today to AT Support for Anxiety. I'm so glad that you're here. This is a very timely and personal topic for me. So I hope that the resources and learnings that I've developed will resonate for you, and that there's something that either you can use for yourself or you could use with your learners in your setting. So this next half hour, just sit back and relax, and we're going to go through these together. So the title of our webinar today is AT Supports for Anxiety and Self-Care. My name is Hillary Goldthwait-Fowles, and I'll give you a little bit of introduction as to who I am. I am an accessibility accomplice. I am very passionate about accessibility, whether it's through content, whether it's through the internet, or whether it's through inclusion. All of that matters and is something that is deeply personal and very important, because I feel that when we don't provide accessibility from the start, we are dehumanizing and devaluing our fellow people and our people with disabilities, or people that might need something a little bit different than what you're providing. Any of that's okay. We've just got to get out of that one way of thinking and being and doing. I am an assistive technology specialist and consultant. I'm a Resonance certified ATP, but prior to that, I was a special education teacher for a number of years. I just recently left the K-12 setting to take on the role of a remote instructional designer at the Kennedy Krieger Institute in Baltimore, Maryland. So it's really a marriage of all of my passions of accessibility, assistive technology, and universal design for learning. And I get to work from home. So I consider myself very fortunate and grateful, but my heart is still in education and making sure that students are seen, heard, valued, and appreciated, but also that teachers are empowered to do the things that they need to do to realize the value of themselves, but also their learners. And I do that also in higher ed as an adjunct faculty and subject matter expert. It's 3:30, so my voice goes a little funny at this time, but anxiety is my superpower. So when I said this presentation was personal, I meant it. It's very personal. So before we get into it, I'd like to point out that we do have resources available for you. You can just hold your phone up, grab the QR code. That will have everything, including our slide deck. So you can have that. That will have all links to the session materials, all of the resources. And I would like to quote my dear friend, Alyssa Warren. I don't know if you heard her amazing webinar a couple weeks back, but she always says that Wakelet is like if Pinterest and Padlet had a baby. And I just love that. So I wanted to quote her on that as well. So you can grab that QR code by just holding up your phone to the QR code and giving it a whirl. It should take you right to the Wakelet. And Jen will also post that, thank you, Jen, in the Google Classroom for you guys as well. So you'll have multiple ways to access today's resources. So let's talk a little bit about anxiety. This is especially true of the last 3 years. I don't know about you, but it's been pretty challenging, to say the least. And a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions and a lot of uncertainty and a lot of grieving, but a lot of fear and a lot of worry, which is anxiety in a nutshell. I do want to preface, though, this is me. I'm talking about my experience. I have anxiety. And I'm pretty upfront about it. I've had it my whole life, from the time I was little petrified of ice skating. Oh boy, but look, I look cute, but I was petrified. And really having to work through that so I could actually get on the ice and skate. I do love the beach. That actually grounds me. So I find when I'm really feeling at my worst, that is the place that I go to get recentered and feel calm. And bare feet in the sand and barefoot in the grass work every time for me. Being nervous about just being presenting or just being seen or things that kind of happen. But I want to make this clear. Seeking help for anxiety is not something to be ashamed of. We all worry, but when it's constant and it's a constant running monologue in your head, it's time to seek help and some supports for that. My experience in dealing with anxiety is one, talking about it, understanding the ways it shows up, but also seeking professional help and some of the AT supports that we're going to go over today that help me to better manage those anxiety symptoms. And there is a disclaimer that I'd like to just share today, that the statements that I'm going to talk about today are based on my experiences. This webinar, this time together, were not intended to diagnose or treat anxiety, but to share supports that have helped me manage anxiety. And that if you are concerned about somebody you love or yourself, please go seek professional medical attention for any diagnosis or treatment of anxiety. But the supports that I'm sharing today, I have used with kids who might be nervous or have some anxiety in different areas, academically, socially, and emotionally, in conjunction with behavioral health professionals as well. So anxiety in schools, I don't want to point all gloom and doom here, but these are important things that you need to know as educators. And I don't know about you if you're wondering about, oh my goodness, the kids, they're just acting like, oh, well, we've had quite the time the last couple of years. Johns Hopkins and Kennedy Krieger, where I work, also have talked about the children's mental health crisis, even in early childhood. And in 2020, when the pandemic first started, the United Nations warned us all of a looming mental health crisis. The longer the pandemic would wane, the larger this looming crisis is. It's especially prevalent in young children, as I mentioned before. But did you know that 1 in 4 people are affected by mental illness, which includes anxiety? So there's 6 of us here. There's more than 1 that would be affected. If there were 8, it would be 2 out of 8 that would be affected by mental illness, whether it's a family member or themselves. And 57% of Americans either lack access to or are not receiving treatment for anxiety and related mental health disorders. That could be due to funding, that could be due to location and access to healthcare, access to insurance. It could be due to trauma from the past of the way that we've developed our medical model, which people who are Black and other minoritized communities have resistance and reluctance to access these services because of past history, or just not having the means to get to a qualified mental health professional that actually understands the unique needs and challenges of, say, someone with a disability, or somebody who's Black, Brown, or Indigenous, or someone of a different sexual orientation, or even just like you and I. Our experiences with mental health are as unique as our fingerprints. And so the only common thread we have is our humanity, but we need to recognize that people are not okay, and that we need to be compassionate and caring towards each other and give each other a little bit of grace. A little stat about anxiety amongst children in ages 6 to 17, it's increased this is before the pandemic. Anxiety in our school-age children has gone from about 5.5% to 2003 to 7.1% in 2016, and that number continues to climb. And you can look up the UN, you can look this up on Johns Hopkins, you can look it up at Kennedy Krieger, it is all there. Let's talk a little bit about masking. We talk about the kids or the people that you can see anxiety and you see it show up and you can tell. And sometimes some kids with autism will have anxiety on the autism spectrum disorder, and you can see how that manifests. But There's another type of anxiety that I want to talk about. This is called high performance anxiety. This is kind of me. What you see are people that are detail oriented. They're outgoing. They're active. They're extremely helpful. They're the first to help. They're hardworking. They perform well under pressure, and they're very, very, very loyal. They will fight tooth and nail for you, and they will be there till the end. But what you don't see behind all of that performance and all of those wonderful attributes, because they're wonderful attributes, but what you don't see behind that is overthinking. Did I get all the details? Oh my gosh, what if I said something and somebody was offended? Oh my goodness. Or did I get all that right? Did I get all those? Did I have everything on my grocery list? People pleasing. I'm doing something to make you happy because your needs are more important than my own. I can't slow down. This was my grandmother. This was my grandmother. My grandfather referred to her as the Tasmanian devil because she was like a tornado around the house, cleaning and cooking, and would move the living room furniture by herself. She was all of 5'3", and it was anxiety. That was how she would process her anxiety. And when she wasn't able to move due to extreme osteoarthritis, you really saw her anxiety ramp up because she didn't have that outlet, that strategy that she used. Can't say no. That's me. And that's a lot of educators. We have a really hard time saying no in this profession, don't we? Because we don't want to let anybody down, but most importantly, we don't want to let the kids that we serve down at the expense of ourselves. And that causes overwhelm. And that causes fatigue. And we're afraid of failure. What you don't see is that fear of fail. I'm going to work so hard because I want to get it right, but I really don't want to fail. That perfectionism. If I fail, it's all going to be bad. It's going to be really, really bad. Catastrophic, in fact. Or procrastinating or over planning with that performing well under pressure. So I'm putting it off because I'm nervous about doing it, but now I have no choice but to do it. So I'm really going to freak out and get it done. And this comes from the Pearl, which is a site that celebrates and supports neurodiversity and celebrates autism acceptance. They're out of Canada. They have some great merchandise, and they have some great infographics and resources to help you support learners with autism. Oh, and also Murky Boundaries is the last one. And that's just kind of not really having a clear set of, okay, this is where my limit is. I'm just going to keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. This might resonate with you. You might have a kid or a learner that you're working with. You might have a colleague that you're working with. You might have an administrator that's like this. It could be yourself. It could be a child, your child, or your family member. All of these show up, but it is just a component of anxiety. And one of the things I've read is that children in higher performing schools, the more affluent schools that have these competitive, need to get into the best colleges, need to take all the best classes and have access to all the best things and be number one in sports and be the captain and try and be the next Tom Brady before you're 12, have anxiety to the point where they're going to need either an IEP or a 504 plan because they have such performance anxiety and wanting to be perfect all the time that it is causing anxiety of just being a kid. It's a problem. And so we have layers of this problem. Well, how can we address this problem? One of the ways I've found to be helpful is through assistive technology. Mental health does matter. It matters more than you ever know. And I know that we've talked about that, briefly, but I want to really hone that point home, is that our mental health matters and our children's mental health matters. So we really need to pause and take a breath and take care of each other. Maybe just take a moment, go for a walk, journal, do something you find joyful, do something that will stop the ruminating in your head, have a strategy, have a support, and offer them. You never know what you're going to get out of that when you offer these options and choices. But assistive technology can be a really cool tool to help manage your anxiety. And here are some ways that I found to be really helpful: through mindfulness apps, through the use of sound frequencies, which as you were entering the webinar today, I was playing one that was just a general kind of soothing, calming frequency. And it's known as a solfeggio tone. And there's a lot of research around the use of sound therapy and sound tones for the treatment and management of anxiety and other disorders in conjunction with therapy. That is that's also in our resources. Movement. We're going to talk a little bit about presentation anxiety. So I said I was going to talk a little bit about school-based anxiety. Yep, presentation anxiety. Those presentations make you nervous. And then just daily gratitude and ways that you can practice gratitude through the use of assistive technology tools. So let's get into it. That is one of my favorite videos from an app called Calm. It's 30 seconds and I have it bookmarked. So if I need to take a moment to just recenter and focus myself, I have it on my history in YouTube, or I can go right on the app or the website and access a bunch of meditations, mindfulness exercises, songs, different ways to get myself centered and calm. Just like the app says, there are free and paid subscriptions available for Calm. But it's a great way to be introduced into the concept of mindfulness. Mindfulness also builds resilience and fosters creativity, but it also has that ability to stop some of that ruminating in your head and get to the clear root of why you're ruminating in your head. Oops, I don't know what happened there. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So the next app is Insight Timer. So Insight Timer is another mindfulness app. I don't know if Tom Brady's wife Giselle has some meditations on there, but other local national people in the mindfulness community have small and large meditations. So you can pick the duration that you want. You can pick whether you want guided or not guided. It's just really kind of cool to have that variety, and it's free. So I like Insight Timer. Mindful Powers is another app that from Common Sense that's for kids. It doesn't have ads, but it gives you a timer and it gives you some options. So everything in the stack and everything in the Wakelet is linked to the resources that I'm showing you today. Mindful Powers was that one that I just showed you. Smiling Mind is another kid-based app. So I wanted to give you a mix of both apps for children and then apps for adults or teens that could work. So this is for 5+. This also helps to build self-esteem. So this app here gives you some features too, the value, ease of play, and what parents. So it's basically for younger kids, and it's more for like parent-child. So it could be a good resource to give to your social workers to have parents work together with their children on building those resilience and self-esteem strategies. Another one of my favorites for kids, I love Sesame Street, is Breathe, Think, and Do from Sesame Street. They have a video, they have a website, they have an app, it's free. I have used this with young children on the autism spectrum. It really helps to open up the dialogue about emotional regulation, because you have to literally breathe, think, and then do. So it gives that pause before you act. So sometimes with impulsivity, we don't have that, where you don't take the pause to think and do, you're just gonna do. But cultivating that through an app like Breathe, Think, Do does help a lot. And then there's Headspace, which is another meditation app that is also has free and paid options as well. And all of those have that same goal of instilling that mindfulness, that resilience, and social and emotional, makeup in all of us. So those are really the ones that I've found to be very, very helpful. And then stop, breathe, and think is a different 10 plus. So it's guided meditation, but it does promote compassion. So it's talking about empathy, compassion, community, all of the things that we need to instill in our children, especially right now. We all have to live and work and be together, and to teach our kids through a mindful awareness of being kind and empathetic and compassionate to people that are different from ourselves, and to seek those different perspectives in order to understand them. Being mindful, and that kind of helps you be more intentional with that. So some sound frequencies. This is one of my other favorite songs. I'm going to play it for just a second. This is 528. You can hear a little bit of rain in the background, but it's a solfeggio tone. And the pitch might be off for some people, so you can turn the volume down, have it at a low, kind of going in the background. It's very, very cool to use just in terms of like things in the background. Yeah, I'm not ready for you yet. So using sound has been around since ancient time. It has been around forever. And music and sound healing can help us release emotional traumas when it's done with a professional. And then I've included a sound playlist for you. There is a track in there for attention and focus that I've used with kids, and I've used it on myself when I'm working on longer term projects and need to actually focus and not pull the, oh, I'm going to go look on my phone and scroll. Oh, look, the cat's over here. I really need to focus and pay attention to the task at hand. And I find that particular focus and concentration task work. Sound can be also white noise. It can be the sounds of the ocean. It can be the sounds of the woods. It can be a sound that brings you joy, that keeps you calm. And the same thing for our kids. You know, they talk about playing classical music in classrooms to have a sense of calmness. Well, that's a certain frequency, and that's related to these types of frequencies. So you can do a type of sound frequency that's called the solfeggio tone, or you could do a different type of sound that's just more musically based, that has different sounds of outdoors or nature that, you know, speak to your kids, or just give them the option and choice to figure out which ones work the best for them and see how that makes them feel inside. Like I've played that just kind of low in the background when I've gone to teach, and even the teachers go, why is everybody so calm in here? Because I'm playing 417 right now, which keeps people really relaxed. But when I want people to be up, I'm going to play something different. So the goal of my experience is also going to determine that in that classroom environment. If I really want kids to focus and study, I'm going to play something different. But if I need things to kind of calm down, because maybe we're doing some independent reading, or we're listening to audiobooks, or whatever it is, maybe I need the environment to be a little bit calmer and more soothing, especially if I'm anxious in a loud, chaotic environment. So those are the things that I've learned to be very, very helpful with that. Movement, get up and move. We sit our kids in seats too long. We need to have more recess. We need to be outside. We need to have outdoor learning spaces where we can explore in our environment and use technology to take pictures and describe it and talk about it and write and draw inspiration from nature that's around us. We need to move, and we need to give our kids experiences outside of the physical classroom so that they know the importance of exercise. I used to have like 2 or 3 recesses when I was a kid. I don't know about you. I had a lot of recesses, and now I had recesses through middle school. I didn't have recesses in high school. We had a really long lunch and we were outside. I used to eat outside, but they don't have recesses anymore like they used to in middle school. And that makes me sad, because you need a break. There is the whole thing about cognitive processing and your brain needing to take a break to process this new information, which is why this is a half an hour, because I want you to have the time to process this. I know we have 5 minutes left, so I might go a little bit over. But these ones are great for yoga for kids, super stretch yoga. Fit On is my favorite exercise app. If I can't get outside, like in the wintertime, Fit On is free. It works on computers. It works on mobile. All you have to do is create a free account, and there are thousands of free workouts, and you can choose the amount of time, the type of workout. They have stuff from yoga to weightlifting to high intensity interval training to stretching and core to people who sit all day in their office because they work from home like me. Though I love it, and I can customize it. So if I can't get outside and do my walk, I will use Fit On, and that helps me with my anxiety as well. I shouldn't have let Mike in. I'm kidding. I love Mike. Go Noodle is one of my other favorite apps for kids. I used to get kids ready. Like when we would get ready to learn, you can customize Go Noodle. One of the programs for children with autism in my former school district used to have Go Noodle up on their interactive whiteboard, and kids could choose which one they wanted to listen to. It was great to get the sillies out. It was great to get kids oriented and ready to move. It was great to get kids like active and moving if it was indoor recess. I love Go Noodle. And then who knew Apple Health? You can track your steps, track your sleep, all of that. So it helps to kind of manage all of those things that might contribute to your anxiety not being, properly managed because maybe you didn't get enough sleep, or maybe you didn't take enough steps. So those kinds of things, looking at exercise beyond just losing weight, but exercise as it connects to mental health. And there are studies everywhere that show the importance of just some sort of physical activity is wonderful, not just for our kids, but for ourselves. So take your kids outside and have some fun, please. And then presentation anxiety. I don't know if you have older learners that are in the middle school or in high school, or if you're doing Google slide presentations, there's an app for that that's called Present Pal. And in fact, Jen Savage and Mike Marta, I have a free code for one license for Present Pal for a lucky person today. So if I can just get an email address of some lucky random person from today's session or from the class after we watch this, you could do a random drawing, and I'd be happy to, if you tell me who that is, I'll be happy to connect you with the folks at Present Pal. You will have a license of that. But what it is, it's like a rehearsal. It works on your phone, and it's super good to help kids break down what they're going to say, how they're going to say it. But there's built-in text to speech. There's all these great features that help break down that performance anxiety of presenting in front of people, which a lot of kids have for different reasons. But this seems to take that edge off, especially for kids with dyslexia and other learning disabilities. And then if you are a Microsoft Office 365 entity, Speaker Coach in PowerPoint, actually it's rehearsal, but in PowerPoint itself, there's a speaker coach that helps you to rehearse your slides. So it's like Microsoft's answer to Present Pal. So it's a smidge different, but there are links and resources here also, and those are also in your Wakelet as well in terms of things that you can use for presentation anxiety. And then I would be remiss to not talk about gratitude every day. When my grandmother, my uncle were sick and they were dying, it was really, really hard. And the pandemic has been really, really hard. But one way out of it for me was to practice gratitude daily. And that could be as simple as a low-tech alternative. I know I'm talking about apps, but I'm going to just take out my Wonder Woman journal here. Low-tech option, journal, just to write 3 things that you're grateful for. And they can be the littlest thing. It could be that you're grateful that you saw your cat, or you saw a cardinal outside, or the sun came out, or, oh, they had my favorite lemon tart at the store today, or, the coffee was really good, or my husband sent me something really sweet, or a teacher was complimentary to me, or I did a good job on whatever that. Also use your phone or use the power of apps to do that with some journaling. So there's gratitude daily journal. These ones are more scaffolded. They give you prompts. They kind of coach you through it. Bliss does too, but a super easy one. Why get something when you have something built in already? iPhones and Google have a notes app. Use your built-in notes app and have a folder for daily gratitude and write 3 things you're grateful for. Eventually, as you get into it and you do it every day, you find you have more things to be grateful for. And when you find that you have more things to be grateful for, that feeling comes with you. And that seems to take that edge of anxiety off, because I'm focusing on the things that I'm grateful for and appreciative of, from the littlest thing to the biggest thing. And then realizing just how fortunate we all are, even when it's just something super little. And then reflectly, it just, gratitude helps for so many ways and so many purposes. Just as being grateful here to be with you all today to present on this topic of anxiety and how you can use assistive technology to help support and manage anxiety with kids and with yourself. Again, make sure that you're seeking professional guidance and support when you are dealing with the treatment of anxiety. So again, here are the resources for you. There is a QR code for the Wakelet. Again, to quote my friend Alyssa, it's like if Pinterest and Padlet had a baby. I'll give you another minute for that. And Jen's going to put that in the classroom for you, so you will have that as well. And I'd like to just open it up for the next few minutes for any questions or any concerns or anything that you were wondering about in our short time together today, talking about different assistive technology supports for anxiety. You can post something in the chat or just flag something that's in the chat for me and I'll answer it. You can find me on Twitter if you are on Twitter. I love Twitter. It's how I got connected to Mike and Jen. And we have a wonderful community of practitioners. And I know Mike's talked about AT chat, but I love Wednesday nights because it's a great way to connect with people who love assistive and inclusive technology as much as I do, and the power that it brings to people. So you can find me on Twitter at Hillary_ATP. You can also find me at hillaryhelpsyoulearn.com, where I occasionally blog about things AT, but I also blog about universal design for learning and different issues in education and lesson design. But I do want to leave you with this. I know the work you do as educators, and I know how hard it has been, having been in K-12 and having been through it, and especially in special education with staffing shortages and all of those challenges, but yet you're still here. And I just want to remind you how essential you all are and how important you all are and how grateful I am that you're continuing to serve kids in the way that you're serving them and to continue to learn and to grow amidst all of these challenges. It means a lot. And I just hope that you're told this Teacher Appreciation Week, which you need a whole entire year, is that you matter. Your experience, your expertise, all of that matters. And it's important. You already know what you know. You might not know everything, and that's okay, but you know what you know, and you're here to grow and bring something back to your setting that you can use with your kids. There's nothing more powerful than that. And I wish more people understood the amount of work, energy, and dedication that teachers are doing every single day to make sure kids are seen, heard, valued, respected, and loved. I just hope that on a systemic level someday that we do the same for teachers and admin and for the people that are making school work and making learning happen. And we do it from a place of empathy and care. And we do it from a place of love, because we're a community and everybody belongs. So with that, I'll open it to some questions, and I'll thank you for your time and attention in this half hour on a Tuesday.
Hillary, it looked like there was one question that came up in the chat from
Yeah.
Karen.
Let's see if I can.
Do you want to unmute yourself? And
Hi, I'm Karen. I asked if you could make a comment on students bringing comfort objects to school. We have 7th and 8th graders who are bringing a lot of stuffed animals, and we have some teachers who are receptive to it, and others are like, will you please leave your toys home?
I'm trying not to roll my eyes. I think if it brings you comfort and it's not disruptive to the learning process why are you making it an issue?
Exactly. If they start playing catch with them, it becomes an issue.
There are ways that you, unless it's bringing them comfort, and is it disrupting the learning process?
Yeah.
And maybe it's because it's disrupting the teacher's comfort.
Yes.
And I understand there's something behind the statement too. I'd like to acknowledge with that, with what you were saying. I tend to do this. Mike and Jen will tell you, Hillary tends to go to the quick of what's behind what's being said, because I tend to see that. That's power.
Mhm.
That's a teacher's attempt to keep power.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. Not
No.
with today's kids, and not with everything we've gone through. That is the last thing that's going to work. In fact, it's just going to further alienate those kids. So maybe let's design a lesson around what brings you comfort.
Exactly. I like that. Yeah, my bias is I called it a comfort object, so I'm saying they need it because it gives them comfort, but it's not always well received. I like that notion about what brings comfort.
What brings comfort? What do you do, Karen, in your setting?
I'm a special ed teacher.
Yes,
So I work with small groups, with lively students, with students on the autism spectrum.
Kids with autism need their comfort objects too. If you're talking about kids with autism, they really need their comfort objects, and
Absolutely.
I don't care, as long as you're not throwing it across the room. Like, and we would talk about things that were okay and not okay together, and why that was important. So having a lesson or an experience about what is comfort. Maybe it's food, maybe it's an object, and have kids, either show what they know in the way, like use Book Creator and have them make a book about things that are comforting, things that bring them joy, and then have them bring it to school. Because then you've normalized it. And maybe if you bring it up to the broader school context and ask them is there a bias behind that? I'm wondering, like, what is your worry about them bringing in something that's going to help them regulate so they can be available to learn?
Yeah. No,
Your heart's in the right place. And I love that.
Yeah. And so it's just how to manage it well. So.
Yep, for sure.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Karen. Are there any other questions or thoughts?
Well, Hillary, I'm so grateful that we got to spend this afternoon with you, and thank you for sharing your story and your heart-centered kind of support for our kids. I'm certainly seeing so much even more need for it as we come out of this isolation. I've seen a lot more comfort objects, I like that term, that are coming into, and seeing even with my own children. So thank you so much for sharing some of these great resources.
Thank you guys for having me, but I'll be back next Tuesday for captioning.
That's right.
Love it.
2 weeks in a row.
It's like a double header.
We're going to get on the SS Access. Ahoy, mateys. Let's
love it.
Well, we need we need some of those good soft sound tones in the background too.
Well, I'm going to start with that because it's just fun. It's just really, really fun. Thank you guys very much for your time and energy. And now you've got some more time to do something that you find enjoyable.
Thank you again. I'll stop recording. Thank you so much, everyone. So we'll post the recording into our Google Classroom, into our website. And thanks again, Hillary.
Yes, thank you, Hillary. Thanks, everybody.
So if you want to send me, like when you do a random drawing, send me an email address, and I have, I'll email Kara at PresentPal, and they'll get a free.
Awesome.